Time is 4:08 here on the West Coast. I've just invited Rod up to speak. We're going to host this discussion for a little bit, and there's some big spaces going on regarding the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs, so it's going to be hard to overshadow those, but we'll have a nice discussion on personal finance that's scheduled, and once Rod gets up here as a speaker, we'll get started.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, Joe. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't been looking even at Twitter, but like you said, it makes sense. There's probably a bunch of lively discussions going on. I don't care to talk about it, butt porn in that case. So we can talk about other stuff, I guess. And if it's just you and me, we can talk for a few on personal finance stuff. You and I both are very curious about all things personal finance in different ways. So it's the start of the year. A lot of people uh, are always looking to better their income statements and balance sheets and cash flow statements, if you will, on a personal side of things. And yeah, I think we could talk about a few different things, whether it's deals out there or just things worth considering being aware of. I think, Joe, since we're not going to do anything on Friday, there were a few things I was going to just kind of bring up that maybe I can like obliquely refer to. Like we were talking about
Totally.
like
And yeah,
insurance stuff. But yeah, before I go off on a tangent.
I will read our disclaimer, but I do want to say, Rod, I think you're the best man to host this discussion on personal finance. Personally, you've always been a beacon of personal finance inspiration to me. You are
Oh, that's
one
nice
of
of
the.
you to say.
I don't want to call you frugal. I don't want to call you
I
frugal. As a negative
used to be
connotation.
very much more frugal. I still would consider myself frugal, but I think frugal gets a bad rap.
I would say savvy.
Cheap gets
You're
a bad rap.
savvy.
I used to be cheap. I became more and more frugal, and certainly have hoped to. Yeah. So, anyways, personal finance savvy. Maybe I can share some of that with some
I think
folks.
you're incredibly savvy. Some of your hacks definitely have to bring up. You'll have to call out when gift cards are on sale, like a PlayStation gift card, things like that. You do a very good job with that. Um, my mother actually recently purchased for me for Christmas. She gave me a San Diego restaurant gift card. She purchased at Costco, valid at several restaurants in San Diego,
I
and
love
it
it.
was like it was $75 for her, and it was worth $100.
Boom.
So went out to a restaurant I don't usually go to, got my 25% off. They were a little stubborn about taking the gift cards, but it worked out. So anyway,
I have awarded her with the Rod Seal of Approval.
yes,
That's one of my favorite
yes.
strategies. If you are spending, and I would broadly think about it like this: if you're spending money somewhere, and I guess this doesn't necessarily apply directly in your case of going to a restaurant you otherwise wouldn't go to, but I do think about it like that. Like Smoky Bones is a barbecue place. I don't know if you've been to a Smoky Bones, Joe, or heard of it, but they sell those
No,
for
I haven't.
70 for 100 at Costco. In addition, you can stack that with your Smoky Bones Club, which you accumulate points through spending,
Ooh,
which it doesn't care about the source of spend. If you so the source of spend being gift card, you still get the points. So you're really layering it on there. So like that's the sexy stuff that I think savvy consumers, I like the word savvy, uh, can leverage, and whether it's paying your insurance in a different way, you know, auto insurance, a lot of people think to default pay that over 6 months. And in a zero interest rate era, that's okay. But when interest rates are 5% risk free still on the short end, you want to think about time value of money. You want to think that the dollars, being able to, if you're going to potentially save the money by not having to spend that cash, but then you have to weigh that against, of course, some insurers will let you get a pay in full discount. So all of that stuff, it really all comes down to thinking about maximizing your own capacity to spend, or because that's what it will all come down to. However much money you make through investing is really your capacity to spend. Or I guess if we're thinking more long term, uh, money to a lot as you will, whether that's philanthropic or family legacy, whatever. So I mean that stuff to me, I've always loved the hacks ever since I was a teenager. Um, look, in elementary school, I remember the Young Entrepreneurs Club selling, pencils and erasers and crap. So I think it's just, it's a little bit of that hustle. It's just a little bit of that savvy, but it's maybe some of the stuff that you've picked up along the way that you can hopefully share. And I like to learn that from people too, because you always hear something new and you're like, oh wow, I hadn't thought to layer that on. But yeah, love the gift card hacks, manufacturing spend. Like again, if you're going to spend money somewhere, you're trying to do it with the lowest net possible. I mean, again, if that's where
Yep.
stuff gets more complicated when you layer in if you're doing it as a business and the tax implications and the like. But generally, I mean, at least we're talking about that this aspect of the spend of personal finance. And then there's the save side, the invest, blah blah blah. But
Yeah. Yeah, I see both Uber and DoorDash have been sending me notifications saying 50% off groceries if I spend more than $50. So
yep.
I maybe need to do my next two grocery hauls on there and then never use them to get groceries ever
Because
again
it's
because
usually
I
what
live
a
right next
20,
to the grocery store.
30% like markup on what you'd pay in
Yeah.
store, layer on some other fees. If you're doing delivery, you're going to throw in a tip. Yeah, you definitely got to think about all that.
Hmm.
But you're right, and I've seen more of those deals. I tend to think, and I say this as someone who's dating someone who has kids in their early 20s. So like I kind of see their spend, and I was magnified over the holidays. Like one of them staying with us during the um, like a few weeks throughout Christmas, and just seeing like how many younger people who when I think about the amount of money that they could otherwise be saving, but that they will happily, gladly consume the dollars they have in hand on these meal delivery type services, and not that they are that anecdata should inform that everyone is like that, but I think that generally, and the data will show that the younger there's a skew, right? You don't see boomers doing as much of ordering, Uber Eats and chill or DoorDash and chill, whatever, insert term that I don't know because I'm not cool. But anywho, like that's they definitely. I think that consumer, like we've talked about, being a little more pinched, they're probably going to be a little more aggressive trying to lure people back to using the services because like people will just spend on that if they've got the money.
Yeah, for me, it's if it costs $10 or less more to get it delivered, I'll consider it. If it's any more than that, it's not worth it. I mean, driving my car does consume gas. I don't have an electric car, and
Well,
there's
even
the
the electric
time,
car has
equation
marginal
into it.
operating costs.
Still, yeah, the cost of electricity. But before we dive
And
any deeper, I think we're
the
gonna end up
tire wear. You
we're
can't
gonna
miss my
the
my
tire wear,
our discussion from last week.
the sooner oil change. Right, you got to add all these things together. The risk to your life driving a car, it's very risky for
And
sure.
the cost of the freaking insurance. Holy shit, dude! My car insurance
Oh,
now is crazy to insure two
Ron, I'm
vehicles.
insuring. I have four vehicles.
Oh,
I'm insuring four
yeah, but
vehicles.
you again with the personal finance hacks, you have it structured in a way that very much reduces your ongoing costs. I mean, it would not be feasible for you to have like the type of I think full coverage on all four of those vehicles that most
Yeah, we've
people
talked about it
are
one
going to
time in
think
the
about.
past. I had like the collector insurance on one vehicle, and then set up differently across all vehicles. It's not just all thrown on the same plan with no rhyme or reason. But I think we're gonna end up talking about equities at some point. So I am gonna read our disclaimer, so that we're covered our butts a little bit here.
Yeah.
Wook Capital Management Inc. and its employees solely provide investment advisory services to family clients and do not provide investment advisory services to the general public. Furthermore, investments are highly speculative in nature and involve substantial risk of loss. We encourage investors to obtain advice from a professional investment advisor and to make independent investigations before acting on information that we publish. We cannot assure you that the information is accurate or complete. We do not in any way warrant or guarantee the success in of any action you take in reliance on our statements or recommendations. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All investment decisions of an individual remain the specific responsibility of that individual.
What a
So
mouthful.
do your own
What
due
a
diligence.
mouthful. Well, yeah, we're not offering investment advice here, folks. We're just talking about personal finance hacks and our own experiences being somewhat savvy individuals with regard to this stuff. So, whoever wants to chime in with their own ideas or anything that's piquing their interest, feel free. Another one of my favorite ones, and this is a reminder for all you that got some of these, is the manufacturing of spend, where a lot of these merchants sell bonus cards during the holidays. Maybe you got a Carrabba's buy 50, get two $10 bonus cards. Remember though, these cards, and IHOP got me, Joe. I'm upset about it. We have an IHOP literally around the corner. So it's with it, I could walk there and it would maybe take 7 or 8 minutes. I live in Florida though, so I hop in the car and it's I technically have to wait at a light. But they had a buy 30 in gift cards, get $10 extra IHOP bucks, and it was a very quick turnaround. It was like December 22nd was the use by date, and I had bought it in November. And you know what? I didn't use it, so I gave them, my $30 cash. I still have an IHOP gift card for $30, but I have forsaken my $10 bonus card. So reminder, a lot of those bonus cards that you may or may not have purchased yourself or received on behalf of others are going to expire over the next few months. Panera was running this one, but I think generally, again, thinking about that sort of a spend, you just have to think about how are you as a consumer behaving. I try to not adjust my, like, I'm not going to take the sale item because it's on sale per se, but like if it's a Panera situation, which is a place I enjoy Panera. I It's not the greatest food in the world. It's not the worst food in the world. And the newest one, here in lovely Tampa has a drive-through. So if you want to, you can literally knock it out of your car. Gotta love suburbia.
Do you
Uh,
love the lemonade? You a lemonade consumer?
so it's I'm not a sweet, like, I try to avoid added sugar, but I think they have at least one product I had recently that didn't have added sugar. And yeah, the caffeine on those lemonades though, whoo boy. They have a Sips Club, which they'll offer like on and off promotions, and I think I was able to get like 4 months of it free, and that's going to come up in a few here, and I'm going to let it lapse. But it's it lets you get like a free beverage every time you stop in, so it's nice if you want a coffee or some other tea like beverage.
Yeah, I'm not really involved in any sort of restaurant rewards programs. I did have both DoorDash and Uber Eats Premium for a while, but recently canceled the DoorDash. Uh, Uber, keeping it for now. I do try
They had
to.
a really good offer.
It's,
Unfortunately, it's not giving you new information because the offer expired, but they had a really good
yeah,
offer around Black Friday. I don't know if you saw that one, Joe. It was like a full year of it. It was a pretty substantial discount. I did not take advantage of it. I find between them and DoorDash, I have a preference for DoorDash. I don't know about
it
you.
tends to be $2 cheaper. I always run the cart together on both apps to determine which one to order from, and the
Makes
DoorDash does
sense.
tend to be two or so dollars cheaper. Ben
Good
is
DD
laughing at
there,
me.
Joe. Thanks for the
Ben
DD.
Ben is laughing at me. Look, it's Southern California. Okay, I'm already paying $15 for a
Well, didn't
cheeseburger.
SoCal also, wasn't Postmates big out there or bigger out there? My sister also lives in
I've never
SoCal.
tried it. I saw with my American Express, I do get some sort of rewards for Grubhub, but I've not used those yet. I've never
Anywho,
considered
they
Grubhub.
were acquired, so just what a crappy industry. There was not to go too far from the personal finance side, although I guess in a sense, thinking about income, this is the most one of the most important pillars of personal finance, your income. There's the news that the Biden administration, the worker rules, right? So you've had all these different lawsuits and fights over the last several years. Joe, I don't know if you were living in California when they had the yeah, no, it was 2020, so you were still van life at that point. But they had
I could
the
have been. I could have
whole
been in California
the
though.
idea of exempting those, Uber and Lyft and uh, DoorDash drivers from reclassifying them as employees. But you've got this was out earlier this week in the Journal. The government is going to they on Tuesday issued a new rule intended to put more contractors on company payrolls. Goes into effect in March. More strict test for determining classification as independent contractor. Under the new rule, if a worker can be counted as a contractor would depend on factors such as whether the job is primarily permanent or temporary, how much control an employer has over work performance, or how integral a worker's job is to the overall business. So you've got these different business models. FedEx Ground is one of them, where Amazon's DSP, where you're really aggregating a variety of small businesses that don't have the bargaining power. You're leveraging your scale and your supplier power against them, kind of to set them up. They act as independent. Some of them have independent contractor relationships with you. They're drivers in the case of FedEx Ground don't work for FedEx, for example, whereas UPS, they are UPS employees. So like this is a long-standing across several different industries. It'll be interesting to see as these rules are finalized what the impact ends up being. The article notes 55,000 comments when they first proposed the rule in 2022. That's how many they received. And yeah, I mean, that fight in California was at a state level. So now you're going to have a rule at the federal level that's going to supersede and be nationwide. So we'll see. I'm sure this will be made out into. I wouldn't be surprised to see an election ad in some capacity. Who knows? With upset, that maybe one side will pick the upset former independent contractors who are so happy about being independent contractors. They would never want to be employees. Oh, who'd want to be a full-time employee? That's the worst. Those horrible benefits that they would be entitled to receive and that the employer would be obligated to pay. Oh, terrible. So I'm sure we'll see that one side coming up with that and the other one saying the inverse. But oh, it's going to be a fun year, 2024. Oh, God, fucking kill me now.
Rod, don't die until you can invest in these Bitcoin ETFs, though. At least consider that.
Someone made a comment on Twitter that I replied to that until now, people couldn't invest their retirement monies into Bitcoin. And I had to correct them that you've been able to do that. Many people have done just that. They've used a custodian to purchase Ethereum, others beyond just Bitcoin. But yes, it is now easier for John and Jane Doe and Dumbass to go in and do a couple clickies and swipies and confettis
The
and buy more
confetti.
coins. Hopefully that explains my view.
Sounds like you're going all in. That's what I heard.
I've not paid hyper close attention. Obviously, people on this place talk about it and the bots talk about it, but it's the notion that will everyone simply price this product as a loss leader to attract assets and price zero fees for with a waiver, and who knows how long those waivers go on for. So I was listening to Bloomberg in the background. It sounded like they were discussing that. So I mean, there's going to be a dozen of these stupid products floating around. What makes one better than the other? It's going to have a few different brand names. So I imagine though they'll just trade at weird. And I wonder, I'm sure there will be people who manipulate this silly market to the net asset value differences between these different products, whether they trade at a premium or discount. And I'm sure will be traders who make money off the stupidity of the people that are doing the swipey. That is all. The swipey people will probably not make much money. They will lose what they have, and, and that is why Robinhood has a structural issue with the options-driven business model and crypto aspects, like we talked about last week. But I've gone off track now.
Yeah, I'm seeing trading live as soon as tomorrow on at least 6 of these proposed offerings.
You have your money ready and raring to go, Joe? Or are
Oh
you
yeah.
just gonna
Oh,
stay old
of
school and
course.
buy it on buy it in a cold chain wallet that you've got?
I do have some Bitcoin on a hardware wallet. And that's the way I will have it, and that's the way I will keep it. It is very old Bitcoin. It is dusty Bitcoin, but it is my Bitcoin.
It's your digital gold. You got your little
Yes.
USB. That's all you need, bro.
Yeah, that's all I need. I don't need it on a computer. I don't need to see it on a brokerage. But yeah, I do understand the appeal of the ETF over holding it yourself, like say I lose my flash drive, it is game over. My Bitcoin is not recoverable. So yeah, that makes sense. Jane and John Doe.
Yeah, you're playing on hardcore mode, dude. You've chosen that new mode, honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3. Respect if you've beaten it. I have not yet tussled with that, but well, I want the golden dice. I'm jealous of you if you have it. Uh, but if you're playing Diablo, WoW, you know what we're talking about. One and done.
Just
You lose
Minecraft.
that guy who lost his
Same thing.
Bitcoin in the dump in his local community and invested all this money trying to dig it out. What a world we live in.
It's crazy. It's bonkers.
But if you read Howard Marks' memo yesterday, you know that's not new. This happened in the 1700s. This stuff, silly bouts of mania and speculation happen. The how impactful that becomes on the broader real economy and on other real assets and other financial assets is going to vary each time. But look, whether Bitcoin is worth what is it worth? I mean, look, we've talked about the silly fact that there are no cash flows, at least directly being generated from it, but there are gold, mining companies. Gold is used in more than just the people who like to keep it in their safe deposit box or wherever it is. I mean, again, though, but thinking about that, it is important to contemplate all of the assets that you own. How are they custodied? Go back to less than a year ago. You wouldn't have thought it that long weekend where people began to worry: do I need to take my money out of the bank? And unfortunately, a lot of people just get riled up. And if you have FDIC insurance and you're not part of the 1%, frankly, you're a-okay and you don't have a worry in the world, so long as you have your money at an insured institution up to the depositor limit, which we now know is perhaps not limited to what it is statutorily there, which is good. We want depositors to be confident in the system. But anywho, it's been a crazy few years. Just remember, know what it is that you own, know the rights that you have related to it. Do you have recourse? The silly folks who, I'm sure maybe there's one of them in here now who've been on Reddit for too long and haven't taken a breath, stepped outside and felt the shock of reality to realize you've realized the loss on your BBBYQ in 2023. And that document that your broker will provide you with within the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, will enumerate how much you lost and how much you can claim against your taxes when you file them, should you be someone who has to file them for tax year 23. So unfortunately, bizarrely and sadly and incredibly, you see people on these social media channels touting and saying that you should not claim those realized losses because doing so gives up your right to some perceived incremental right, which again is not true. They just, Joe, people went fucking crazy. A lot of people really have lost connection with reality and dove into conspiratorial rabbit holes far too deeply over the last few years. But I digress.
Yeah, so I've pinned the Howard Marks memo in the nest as well as our space we hosted on BBBYQ. So we hosted this space on the stock, that used to be Bed Bath & Beyond. There's a lot of speculators that believe that the company could resurrect themselves from being delisted, and there's still some people in that conspiracy theory camp. But when we hosted this space, I believe it was in the middle of the space, the shares were canceled. There was an announcement that they would be canceled. We hosted a space on the day that they were supposed to be canceled, and then in the middle of it, they were canceled. And what resulted were a bunch of people that were not the biggest fans of Rod Alzmann, very upset with him for not understanding their side of the trade. But their stock was literally canceled during the space. It was poetic in a way, and quite comical. So let's take a listen to that space. It's also available on YouTube on the Wook Capital YouTube channel. But yeah, so that was definitely one of the one of the funniest spaces we hosted, and also the least informative.
We tried to keep it civil, and I think it was whatever. It was a waste of my time, but aspects of it were a waste of everyone's time, unfortunately, such as social media, right? We're just wasting our time on here. Some of you listening as you do other things, and you're like, wow, this guy's voice, I don't know, I'm going to tune in somebody else talking about buttcorn. He doesn't seem
Yeah,
like he's a fan.
I love when we hear about where people are listening from. Sometimes we have listeners from countries I've never been to. Sometimes we have listeners that are running on a treadmill. It's quite funny. And people ask to come up and speak, and then they're driving through like some crazy traffic, and you just hear horns in the background. Definitely has been some of the highlights of the spaces. Is just the crazy level of communication you get. I forget the soundboard exists. I've never tinkered with it. Someone's someone's getting passed by a train. That'll. Oh my god, that one is god awful. That one should be illegal. We're making that sound effect illegal. We also brought Ben and Chris up here to speak. He's some frequent um, speakers in our spaces. Either of you guys have any thoughts on personal finance or whatever else? Feel free. We won't be doing a Friday call this week. Maybe I'll send out a tweet noting that. But if you want anything, say anything, you're more than welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, yeah, I think crypto is very interesting. I've noticed there's a lot of millennials I know. I'm a millennial too, but like a lot of them just own crypto. Like they see it as like a legitimate thing, like it's a real thing, like you can own, and it's like a big allocation of their assets, and it's a way to save. And I just wonder if that's something that's going to be here to stay. If you go maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, like are people still going to be buying this stuff? And one thing that I saw, I think it was like a year ago, I saw an article that said that like millennials are actually now being scammed like at a higher rate than boomers. And
Wow.
I think part of it was crypto, right? Because like it's a lot easier to get scammed, right? Because you just click a link and you have your wallet open, right? And then like you just lose everything. In
All
2022,
my
yeah.
34 rabbit turds that I still have, Chris, I could lose them all just by clicking.
Yeah, NFT, the apes, right? Remember the apes, the bored apes? Um, those got stolen.
I remember. You remember? I remember.
That's crazy because boomers love getting scammed. It's like one of their favorite things.
I mean, it's
So,
scary. Like my grandparents, they get calls from scammers and like they pretend, that it's they're their grandson and they're like in a bind and they're at the hospital or whatever, they need money
Yep.
and
I have a family member that was a victim of one of those, and fortunately
Mhm.
did not end up experiencing a financial loss, but fell victim to it and quite nearly did. And
Oh
yeah,
no.
it's very sad. That's crazy, Chris. I hadn't heard that statistic. That I guess that's including certain crypto related digital scams.
Mhm.
You're saying that millennial bracket, the 25 to whatever we are.
Mhm.
I don't know.
yeah, I wonder if that includes shit coins that go to zero or just like straight up like thievery of NFTs and crypto wallets. Because if you invest in something
Mhm.
that turns out to be a total dud, it's not
Invest. We
really much
need
of a.
to, Joe. I really hate it. I hate it. You know what I hate is when people call it investing. They call things investing that is not investing. I'm very Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett esque in this regard. I'm okay with speculation. I do it myself,
Mhm.
but the concept, like you said, Chris, that a plurality or whatever majority for some of their quote unquote investable assets as they perceive it are allocated to speculations and not investable assets.
Now, I'm not sure if anyone in this space uh, grew up or used to play RuneScape back when that game was in its infancy, and there
Mhm.
was a ton of scams on that game. It was just any. I guess you could just equate this to like any MMORPG with a big user base. But growing up, having played that game, having seen everyone try to steal my armor, steal my coins, things like that, get me to propose a trade with them and then lose my
Bro, I
items
want
through
that. I
them
got that mithril
through some
greatsword.
quick click, right? Growing up with that, I feel like I'm just like immune. I can't get scammed anymore. Like it was my childhood being scammed. Now I've learned my lesson through the internet enough times. So definitely something I've noticed. People that have played that game growing up, a lot less susceptible.
Yeah, it's I mean I feel like people have the right to buy whatever they want or and save or whatever they buy whatever they believe in, but um
They have a right to use Uber Eats for every meal if they decide to allocate their
yeah,
discretionary dollars in that manner.
yeah, and it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't understand it, but yeah, it's weird, right? And like I feel like I can understand like why, like especially like if you look at stock market, right? Like if you've seen like market makers, right? A lot of this stuff has been computerized, right? So like you don't have, all these people on Wall Street working anymore. Like a lot of them have just left, right? Because, commissions are like zero now, right? And a lot of these, sorts of tech trading has been automated. But like with crypto, right? Like you can collect 1-2% fees and commissions with these, like Coinbase and these other exchanges, and and all these sorts of crypto services. You can, collect quite a bit of premium, I mean, for these services. And there's no there's no legislation really to regulate you, right? Like it's crypto, it's not a security. So like if you're somebody that's like, maybe ex Wall Street, you go into crypto, right? And like I mean, it's not like you can do whatever you want, but like there's a lot of opportunities to make money, and like you don't necessarily have to, do anything like really malicious or evil. Just people believe in this, right? And if they believe in your, service, right? Um, you can put a disclaimer, but yeah, it seems like a lot of financial people that I've followed here on Twitter like have just kind of like moved on to crypto, to make money, and it's like a way to make money, I guess, right? Because um, the price of these assets goes up, and there's more demand for them, and stocks like Coinbase or MicroStrategy, go up in response.
And then they issue equity, and then it goes up in response. And I mean, there's just Ponzi attributes to almost all of these schemes, and it's just, to me, it's not I don't think it's a sustainable thing in most cases for these things. And unfortunately, a lot of people will lose and continue to lose money and be defrauded through these things. Which isn't to say these things, these cryptocurrencies, blockchains, which are, I guess, commingled in many people's thinking around them, couldn't prove commercially useful in some ways. But it's been a long time now that we've been waiting for these really useful societal, actual use cases of cryptocurrency and I guess a public blockchain. And look, AI popped out, and AI is hype now, but I guess crypto's hype too. Like how crypto's coming back. To me, it's just kind of hilarious to look at the two and think about one that actually has real, likely, meaningful impacts on how we exist, and the other one just being literally there for us to trade the same damn things we were, trading in 17, 20, whatever, with the South Seas Company. Like, it's just, it exists for the same purpose that it exists 400 years ago. Like, do you want it to be regulated in a sense that it's offered in a way that there's less defrauding? Sure, I guess, but let's not give it a credibility or credence, which I know that Gensler has been pretty clear about. But unfortunately, like you said, a lot of our peers and younger and even older maybe don't think it through what they're thinking when they say I'm investing 50%, 75%, whatever of my money into a cryptocurrency.
Coin has dog.
Shiba. I look, Shiba Inus are. I'm so happy with. Were it not for crypto, I wouldn't have learned how cute they are.
Oh, I love a
But
Shiba Inu.
It's nothing against the breed, bro.
Yeah, Logan Paul recently announced. So he's the YouTube guy that announced Crypto Zoo, which is going to be a game. He did this in 2021. It's supposed to be an NFT game where you could breed your NFTs and create little NFT baby zoo animals. I don't know. It never really came out. It never materialized. It never happened. But fans had already spent millions of dollars on these tokens. I think something like $16 million was spent on Crypto Zoo tokens. And lo and behold, uh, he gets sued. Logan Paul's getting sued over it because people, lost all their money that they invested into the project, and he's apologized and said he will buy back the NFTs. So if you still have the NFT, he'll buy it back for what the original price was. I don't know what's happened to the original price of these NFTs since they were dropped. I believe dropped is the term people use, but can only imagine if you had lost a ton of money on it and then sold it to recoup some of your investment. You're now ineligible for Logan Paul's refund because you don't still own it. Uh, but overall, this process may cost him somewhere between
Hang
two
on,
to
so
three
only
million dollars.
hodlers will be rewarded? Is that
It
what I'm
seems like
hearing?
it. The diamond hands.
That's
Um,
another one, Joe. We experienced that more vividly than most. And this corruption, utter corruption of the concept of diamond handing by the retards, I will call them what they are. Think MMTLP, BBBYQ, that sort. Uh, Diamond handing doesn't mean to just hold and watch your investment, your speculation, your whatever it was just dwindle to zero. Diamond handing means that you don't sell because the price declined that didn't disprove your thesis. And that's the part that, you know, the so many people who didn't know Keith Gill, the Redditor who became famous, Roaring Kitty, Deep Fucking Value, whatever name, like that corruption, and that's what it was a corruption by the masses of that the notion of what would have been, a term that could have actually made like you're not selling just because you saw the price decline, whatever. Anywho, I'm sorry, that one angers me.
I mean, I think that could also apply to the. I mean, I will never hear the phrase DD in the same respectful light again for the rest of my life, and that just hurts me.
Look, we love DD. We love it over here at the due diligence space. I'm going to also add on to the story I was just talking about. This BBC article says that one investor who spent $40,000 on these Crypto Zoo NFTs told this reporter that he was not interested in a refund. And in fact, he just wanted Paul to complete the project and make sure that the game actually released. he's lost 40 grand and he just wants the game to come out. He doesn't want his money back. Can you imagine like still holding on to this idea so much? I think people I mean
Yeah,
this reminds me of BBBYQ like investors. It's just a
they
matter of
just want it to be
you,
true so
yes,
badly,
so
Joe.
bad. You can't give it. They won't give it up. They won't move on. It's like it's sad. It's
Whatever concocted web that is in their head, they just want it to be true so badly. Oh my goodness, they have not been very nice to me,
Yeah,
and
last night I watched
I
Nathaniel Popper's latest Netflix project. So he's the author of a book that's going to be coming out about the GameStop story. Rod and I both have spoken with him before, and we think that'll be a good one. But it's been delayed a little bit to maybe this year. I'm not sure. I haven't spoken with him recently, but he has a Netflix doc that just came out called BitCon, and oh my god, how
oh,
frustrated you can get watching this Netflix series. It's about these douchebags over in Miami that
ugh,
stole a
always
bunch
the
of money,
Miami douchebags.
stole a bunch of money, claiming to be launching a crypto supported debit card, so you could spend your Bitcoin in stores. And they got a ton of investments. They got endorsements from a bunch of celebrities, DJ Khaled,
Oh
and
my
the likes.
god, what a
So
stupid.
anyway,
Just people
doesn't
are.
work out, of course. Doesn't work out, of course, because they actually just completely ripped off another company doing the same thing and just replaced all of the text in their disclaimers with the text of this fake company they had created. Blah blah blah. It's on Netflix. It was decent. Watched most of it and then got distracted, but very good. Watch if you've got a Netflix subscription. You'll laugh the whole time. Rod, you may throw something at your television. These guys epitomize everything you hate in like such a way that it's quite comical.
That was the hacked SEC account causing Bitcoin to flush yesterday after the fucking stupid
That's a debate, though.
manipulation.
Was it hacked or was it an intern?
Yeah, was it an employee of SEC? I don't know. So far, what I've seen reported is that it was not internal. But if someone's seen differently, please share.
I mean, people have been calling on Elon to release the records and figure it out.
I thought that they pointed out that there was not two-factor authentication and that it was an outside actor or whatever.
Who pointed that out?
Twitter had tweeted about it. Whatever. I refuse to call it X. I'm sorry.
No, X had X'd about it. I don't see the post. I'll have to find it. But yeah, that's interesting. No two-factor authentication on the SEC's Twitter account. Like, happy to know that the GMEDD handle is more secure. Happy to know there will be no false GameStop news tweeted out through a third party.
I guess the news on that end is we got a new Switch coming out in a few months. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a Switch or is it a new console?
It is a new console. It is not like a OLED only.
OLED 2.0? No, it's not that. Okay. I still have the original Switch. Have a lot of fun with it. It never leaves the dock. It's always plugged into the television. And Mario Party, Mario Kart, pretty much the rotation. Either one of those, you get bored of one, you play the other. I have a great. I don't see a need to upgrade it, but we'll see what the next console is.
It's fun to read the speculations around the next one. So will it be called Nintendo Switch 2, Super Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch U, new Nintendo Switch, Nintendo
I don't think
Switch
Nintendo
Plus.
is going to go anywhere near the term "U" ever again.
Right?
I think they learned their lesson.
You would hope. Or investors like Chris R. might rage sell their NTDOI.
I already trimmed Nintendo last week and kind of regretting it, but like, yeah, my thesis is basically like I wanted to take some profits, and also they're gonna announce like a Zelda movie, and it's a live action one, and I feel like once the trailer comes out, like people are gonna be really angry because it's gonna be cringe. So
it's up about 30% from the October lows.
yeah.
So I can't blame you for trimming. I mean, look at the 5-year chart on Nintendo. It's still like, and we won't go into Nintendo's details, but it's not that demanding. And I hear what you're saying. It's a trim, not an outright exit.
Yeah.
I mean, as a consumer, that company will continue to get my money for many years to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the cost for them to create a new game is so low, and then the money they make from these games is, very high margin for software. The only question really is what's in their pipeline, right? How many games do they come out per year, and good ones, right?
And what's interesting is for them as a company, the mix of physical digital software sales has still remained around the 50-50 mark. It's plus or minus. So what happens with this next device? Somebody who has a bunch of Switch games will be able to play them on the new device. Will Nintendo make me, upgrade my library through very expensive, physical media update? Am I likely to do that again at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Questions that then lean into the secular headwind facing beloved for some followers of the at GMADD handle GameStop and the pre-owned business, just that structural issue that it's facing.
Yeah, because with Nintendo Online Shop, they didn't have that really for Wii U. So this is really the first console where they've had it. So if the new console will be supported by the digital games, right? The digital games platform, it'll be, yeah, it's 130 million users. So, um, if they buy a new console, they can just move all their games, right? It'll be seamless. And also, somebody who buys a new console can just, digitally buy the old games. They don't have to, make any more, physical or as many physical copies or rely on distributors as much. But it'll be interesting to see how the digital transformation, continues with the new console.
I will say, the Nintendo store rarely ever has any good deals. When I was in college and when I was back in high school, I used to play quite a bit of Xbox, and there were always a there was always a deal to be had. You could find something that's 50% off. You could also sign up for the Games Pass. That's more of a recent launch, but things like that, allow you to pay a monthly subscription to play a big library of games. Nintendo doesn't have anything like that. I think if there was a Nintendo Pass, that would be cool. It offers you all the Mario games. You
Expansion
pay
Pass
pay
does give you some of, I think, what you're talking about, but you're right. It's not nearly as robust as the other two, and
No, and the
they're,
fact that
but they've actually, I mean, Nintendo is ahead, I think, or they're close. I know they were ahead of Xbox Game Pass, but I think Game Pass is going to continue to grow. It's hard to argue as if you're a gamer, whether PC or console, with it's pretty compelling value. Although, again, like thinking of the hardware itself, they were really trying to move. I saw some Xbox Series X's for $200. They were trying to move the first gen XSX at Walmart and some other retailers over the last couple of weeks because the mid-cycle upgrades are here. You've got that, which again on the PS5 side, you now have a base version that comes with a disk drive attachment. You have to kind of adjust the outer shell of the device yourself as the consumer. Like it's it's interesting to see, like we're really close, and I still think there will be physical drives, but I think they'll all be optional for the next one, for what comes after Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, I guess PlayStation 6, whatever. I think there will be, but it will all come as an add-on, and then it's really going to still exist, and there will be sales of those games, but it still remains in decline, and we've clearly got to that past that inflection point for most. Although Nintendo is the one who's at the crossroads still of the kind of 50-50-ish mark, physical digital, and we'll find out in like 3 months here, I guess, what that's going to look like as we get to the next cycle for them, get to the current console cycle, so to speak. But anywho, personal finance stuff, we can pull it back from video games.
Yeah. Anyways, with
all the
Nintendo,
same.
I'll end on this note. With Nintendo, um, I guess another concern for me about the stock is that they just don't allocate capital fast enough, right? They just have that huge, cash
What,
pile.
Japanese companies are not the oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's for sure
yeah.
an issue.
So,
Just like I won't even say the ticker. You know the one I'm thinking about,
oh yeah,
across
yeah,
from Japan. It's
yeah,
literally so stupidly cheap. I didn't buy anymore, but like it's a like a 6% allocation now. It's just like trading at 1 times trailing EBIT.
yeah.
Like, but a capital allocation. It's
In
what comes
terms of
down to it.
gaming, like
I'm trying
what?
to be better about
Yeah.
that after
Mhm.
being burnt by poor. It doesn't matter. At some stage, you need to understand the incentives, the alignment of management, who's at the helm, and shit. There's always luck, but
Yeah. In
anyhow.
in terms of gaming, like what's left in the in investing space, to invest in with games? Like most of the companies I've seen are either listed in Japan, China, or EU. Um, there's only like Take-Two, right? That's in the US, and then I guess Microsoft. But it seems like, um, in terms of gaming IP, right? There's kind of like a dearth of opportunities to invest in that. So I guess maybe Nintendo, you know, well, I don't know if they'll benefit from that at all, but the equity will. But yeah,
There are
like
several Japanese companies you didn't mention, but again, it gets back to some of the
in
capital
Japan, yeah,
allocation concerns.
yeah. And China has a problem, right? Because there was that draft
Yeah.
legislation from last month, and it's interesting. So that kind of pulled back, and they actually gave more approvals to games in China compared to last year. Like a lot of games that got canned by the government got reapproved retroactively um, over the last few weeks. But um, but
But the
yeah,
initial headline is what people will remember, not that part.
exactly, exactly.
Kerrang, I saw you come up. Did you want to chime in on some video game companies that I imagine you wanted to enlighten us with?
No, whoever just was speaking, obviously you have Nintendo over in Japan. We do have EA as well, right? We have Take Two, EA, kind of got Roblox. But gaming, as somebody stated, is definitely growing in the Asia Pacific region. Even India is getting pretty big into that with their increased amount of bandwidth, if you want to call it, or the connectivity. That's even another market that I believe they're just getting started. You know, if you compare it to a baseball game, I think they're in the first inning, first to second inning. So you're going to more than likely see that occur there. However, most people there actually have more mobile phones, right? So mobile gaming, I think, is one area.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
console gaming is far smaller outside the U.S. market. Mobile gaming globally for sure is far larger than console gaming. The mix there, though, you're right, outweighs even what we have here.
And that's not as saturated as a market. So even when it comes to consoles, when it comes to the per capita GDPs of some of these more developing or emerging economies, right? Especially for the younger generation, their age demographics. There's a lot of Amazon's trying to get into it in India. Most people can't afford a $500, the latest generation when it comes to Microsoft or Sony, right, with their Xbox Series as well as their new PlayStation 5. So that's why I'm saying that as well. So feasibility reasons, I would definitely agree with whoever is stating. Microsoft's gotten even bigger with their EA acquisition. Regardless if the European Union was not approving it at first, they'd actually tactically acquired a gaming company in Europe, right? They've agreed to even release all titles pretty much when it came to EA concurrently on all platforms. So they won't be doing any exclusive on the EA segment there. There's a few ETFs if you want to look at this. One's Hero, HERO. You got Gamer, GAMR. So you can get a good plethora of these companies that we were speaking about. But like somebody did state, a lot of them are domiciled outside the US.
For sure. Appreciate it. I have an online membership to all three, so you can take me as a but look, going back to the personal finance tie-in, what I often do with those is if I've invested in the console, I know I'm going to have the console for years to come. They all have more recently raised price. So Xbox Game Pass went from 15 to 17, for example. PlayStation, I don't know the tiers precisely. That's the monthly. If you pay monthly, again, what I always will do with them is accumulate multiple years at deeply discounted pricing when they do their, whether it's around the holidays or if you can, going back to Costco, for example, if you can get them. They didn't do it this year unless I missed it. Previous years, Costco sold the $100 PlayStation dollars and Xbox dollars for 80. I did not see that this year. I don't know if I just missed it. But they were only at 90, which is their typical offering. But again,
Yeah,
like just the idea of being layer in, like if you know as a consumer you're gonna have that, don't pay it 17 a month to Microsoft. Pay for the full year, and this always goes back to people's, whether through just not knowing time value of money innately, like that doesn't like to me, like it's always just there in my head. Like, what does money cost and that stuff? And some people don't give a shit about that. But when you think about how much more you may pay over a 12-month term for a monthly version of something you know you're going to consume for the full year, for example, if you have the cash, it makes sense to invest early. And so on.
Yeah, I think PlayStation they bumped theirs up to I think $80 for PlayStation Plus on the yearly subscription. Microsoft, you saw how they've changed, right, when it came to even their backwards compatibility. So they've added a lot of the older titles, right, and made it stream right into their platform there. So
I
that
started
integration.
playing the last Banjo Kazooie game that I'd never played that I guess came out on 360. Has anyone? But they brought, Microsoft owns Rare, so they had all these old, what was, I guess, Nintendo 64 for those of us who are in our 30s and played this growing up. Fond memories of Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie, and I saw that there was a game that came out on 360, and I never owned one of those, so I started it. Hopefully, it's decent.
I think they avoided that red circle of death as they had back then, right, with their newer platforms.
Fun factoid, Corinne. Some people, know that I was rather obsessed with GameStop for many years, and one fun operating fact is that the first generation Xboxes, GameStop figured out a soldering repair to that they were able to make a lot of money through the refurbishment of the hardware because they're taking your Red Ring of Death device, and for GameStop, it's such a cheap repair. So, anywho, fun fact of the night.
Yeah, I had to do that for myself and a few people I knew before they came out with that solution. So I definitely know the pain, as well as replacing the hard drive on it. I guess it voids a warranty, but you had no other choice back then. So, yep.
Never experienced the Red Ring of Death. I did have a 360 Slim that stopped reading games. I don't know how that happened, but it was under warranty. Sent it back to Microsoft, and they repaired it. Sent it back, and devastated little me was without an Xbox for a few weeks.
I'm playing too many freaking games right now. I can't finish any of them. There's just too many good games. But the software slate for 24 is not as strong as 23. So from an industry-wide software sales, at least thinking more on the console side, you'll see a weaker year. I'm very hype for the newest Grand Theft Auto, though. That I will be buying the physical edition of for whatever that's worth. It's still got to get downloaded to my device, but if I can, I wasn't able to with Baldur's Gate 3, although then because on the back of the success of BG3, they released a physical, which it's like I'm not at this point. I own the game. Come on, I'm not going to shell out another $80-100. I guess some people will, but not me.
What's up, gamers?
Hey, Dilly, how's it going?
Going good, going good. I want to go get my old games out.
They still giving you a hard time, Billy, about nonsense.
Huh?
So are the idiots still giving you a hard time about nonsense?
I don't even know what you're talking about, but probably.
Just Brandon and that stuff.
I could care
yeah,
less. I literally could care
yeah.
less.
Do you guys? Yeah, that's the best thing to do. What are you looking for? When it comes to gaming, what's your style, Dilly?
Well, now that I'm like 38, which is really old seeming, I don't feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I am that age. I like party games, like with friends,
I'm sure
But
you remember Mario Party
oh hell
classics.
yeah, Rod!
Oh, those are the
yeah.
best mini games in some of those Mario parties.
Yes, like the mini games were like where it was at. Yeah, I like party games with friends, but I also don't like really game a whole lot right now. I'm trying to like downsize everything for my move. So yeah, selling like all my shit.
renting a U-Haul?
I don't know what I'm gonna do, quite honestly. But I'm moving to New York uh in like the end of February.
The end of February. Whew, I hope you have a good weather move.
Yeah, same.
Good
I didn't
luck.
even think about that until I just said it now. Yeah. Oh, see.
I think sometimes new chapters are always exciting, so you probably have more positivity going forward. So it's awesome. The only crappy part is the freaking income tax laws. They operate a little bit differently, right? So it takes a little bit getting used to, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out.
I never paid the state of New York. I moved out when I graduated undergrad. I got out of the state, and I think my earned income when I was a minor was never enough to have to file. Thankfully, so screw you, New York State. I mean, I enjoyed your public schools. You did a wonderful job for me and my family, but sorry, tax collector.
That's why you moved down here, man. That's what happens, you know.
Oh, are you from there?
I'm from Suffolk County.
Oh, I have no idea, like any of the counties. I say that like
Suffolk is the one farther out on the island, but I grew up, a town over from the easternmost town in Babel, in Nassau. So, like for me growing up, the city, I don't know, I don't really understand the allure, I guess, for many, but I know a lot of people love it, and I hope you love it.
Oh, we're not gonna live in the city.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, no. Um, I don't know the name of the county. It's like out towards Long Island, like,
Nassau,
but no,
Queens,
maybe. What is the county name?
Brooklyn.
No,
Well,
it's
if
like
it's
in.
if it's on Long Island, it's it's one of the four that I've brought up.
Okay, then maybe I don't know any of where I'm going, but that's yeah. We're looking in a couple different cities for apartments. Um, but like in between, like basically the New York City and West Hampton. So
Yep, Hamptons are out in Suffolk County. So if you're out on the island east, it's Suffolk, and it's I mean Long Island's great. The congestion, depending on where you're going to be, it's a different. It's very dense, right? It's an initial suburbia. The parkways. I don't know if you've ever driven on Long Island. That's an experience. If you've never been on the Southern State Parkway before, be careful.
yeah, I think that like I have no idea what I'm talking about, quite honestly, Rod. Like,
I think you got a good person there to guide you. So,
yeah, Brendan will have to like teach me the fucking map.
Yeah, Rod moved down to the warmer weather. It gets kind of cold. I think Rod up in the northern section of where we're at, but
My mother is from Fulton, New York, and my I went to Binghamton. My two members of my family went to Syracuse. I'm very well acquainted with lake effect snow.
Yeah, I've been kind of amazed, like how the weather is so similar to Michigan, like all the time. Like pretty much, like today's like the one day of deviation, but like pretty much it's always the exact same weather in West Michigan and in New York. It's kind of weird.
Those pesky Great Lakes strike again.
I know.
But it's
Uh,
if hopefully it's an early spring, like March. I'm born in March, so like I always knew like around my birthday sometimes you might get an early spring. And once you hit summer, I mean, it's great to be up there that time of year as a Michigander. I'm sure you are. That's probably your
yeah,
preferred.
dude, I'm so excited. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. It'll be fun.
Oh,
But
smooth move. Best wishes with it.
thanks. I was gonna say if you guys follow Lake Michigan on Twitter, they're hilarious. Sometimes they'll host spaces where it's just them and like the sound of water, but nobody comes up as a speaker. Their Twitter account is like hella funny.
I'm just seeing this on my timeline now. It's apparently old news, though, 9 hours ago. So fast we move nowadays. It's old. But anyway, Twitter/X removed support for NFTs as their profile pictures. So no more will you see those. What are those? A hexagon? I don't know my shapes. No longer will
Yes.
you see those
I
profile
remember when that
pictures
used to
anymore.
cost me $2.99 a month back in the good days,
Bro, this
before
is
the
the
dark
latest
times.
breaking news. Like, I have been watching the NFT gods just fucking crying all day. Like, like they're all mad. Their fucking hexagon is gone. So sad.
Weird flex, but cool, bro. What a time to be alive. What a time. So I'm going to take pulse and assume no one here is rushing out on this panel to pile into the Bitcoin ETFs that I suppose everyone is now going to be allocating their hard-earned savings toward.
Well, some people, I mean, the majority of the price was pretty much baked in, right? If you take a look at the chart. So ETH BTC, Ethereum's actually been just killing it, right? The whole time. And that reversed to the upside for Ethereum. So I think there's more effects outside of Bitcoin's price on a percentage basis. Fidelity already had them listed even as of yesterday, ready to go. So it's actually exchange traded products, right? So you have ETNs, exchange traded notes, and exchange traded funds, but that's what the paperwork says that the SEC has released. So they might be called ETFs, right? But they're just classifying it still as ETPs. So yeah, they're gonna go live tomorrow. That was already agreed upon, so there should be 10, Rod. Galaxy, I was just listening to Kathy Wood and their team over at ARK Investments. Theirs is Bitwise and the rest of the bunch, right? So you should see all of them. Last I read, they were all going to concurrently start going live. The 10 that had filed and renewed their application with certain nomenclature or vernacular, but they released a statement too, or Gensler did, right, which is they're not recommending it. You want to assess the risk, but yeah, they've there you go. So it's pretty much there, anyways. Right, Alameda. When it came to that crap storm, they had a lot of reasons not to approve cryptocurrency after the Alameda situation with FTX on top of Binance. So hopefully people, when it comes to institutions, they were all ready. Fidelity Digital Assets, right, and Citadel and Schwab had taken EDX markets live. That's their own exchange. That was back in September. So let's see what happens. Supposedly, since you mentioned the new GTA that's soon, hopefully, when I say soon, it's still a while for the official release. They're supposed to integrate that. I don't know if you saw that or not when it comes to cryptocurrency for your ability to transact in the game. So let's see what happens.
Rockstar made so much money with the GTA dollars with the last game. I can't imagine they would change up that system much, and why they would give up any sort of control over the ecosystem of the game.
Yeah, that I'll believe that when I see it and exactly what that means. I take that to mean more so they'll allow you to spend your cryptocurrency on your GTA bucks.
That'd be the way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but that's just a rumor mill right now. But it's gonna get implemented in a variety of other ways. So people want to spend that cryptocurrency in that way. That's up to them. Um, in my opinion, I would never do that. That's just my take on that. It's not wise. You'd want to transfer it to another medium and then do that. But that's just my opinion. You guys are talking about personal finance, right? And a little bit of that is there. You guys want to shift back to that, or is it just an open conversation?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop actually. We hadn't really intended it to necessarily go too long tonight, so I'm gonna probably drop in less than 10 minutes. So yeah, we can shift it back there. I mean, quickly and concisely. One thing I didn't get to mention yet, we obliquely began referring to insurance when we were talking about the cars earlier, but if you haven't yet, be sure to shop your insurance. All variety of states. If you read the Wall Street Journal, you saw the reporting talking about California and Florida, kind of in particular. We've, on some of our programming, talked about insurance for a variety of times over the last year, but be sure you're shopping. There's been pretty significant rate increases, in excess of 20% for many,
Yep.
and just make sure you're always shopping insurance. Some people like get lured into this sense of loyalty, I think, with insurance products. And while yes, you want to ensure that your insurer, no pun intended, is capable of paying if there is an insured event, just do your research, do your DD, Ben, and that way you can hopefully save yourself a few bucks in 24 on what's otherwise probably pinching your wallet a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Progressive, right? They have their so-called loyalty program, but Geico obviously is one of the larger insurers.
Well, that product, though, they structure it where you have to pay to get that $50 that cumulatively builds with Progressive. I don't remember I haven't had theirs in a few years, but I think it's an interesting product. I think a smart product for them. I'm sure that it's a high margin product.
Oh yeah, I mean, take a look at the insurance stocks, right? You can definitely see that they're holding up quite well, and they have, right? So you can take a look at IYK, and then you also have KIE. So you did see a dip in some of those names when you had the Hawaii situation a few months ago, but a lot of those stocks have recovered and continue to do well. So yeah, insurance business is good. I think it's done well for Berkshire over the years, right? And that's the understatement there. So heavy cash flow generation.
I would certainly love to be given a large amount of money that I then have a time now and that I have obligations later. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, the float is. Another thing that you can lever as a personal finance consumer in general, though, would be, well, make sure that you take advantage of the float when it comes to your monthly credit card bill. Don't pay immediately, when you get your bill. Pay on the due date. You're not getting any bonus points if you're paying in full every month. If you're paying your statement balance in full every month. This is the important caveat. And if you stray away from this, then you've been shunned outside of this space and you can leave. Because if you're paying interest on a monthly basis on a card on a regular basis, then you shouldn't be talking even about investments. You certainly shouldn't be throwing money into speculations in any large scale, because when you have a fixed rate of interest that you're paying, that you're paying, right, whatever your highest marginal cost debt is, and I get that it's going to vary depending on how whatever. But like, if you're paying credit card interest rates, it doesn't matter what the points program is. It doesn't matter what this other stuff is. You needed to address that first. But regardless, pay in full every month and then pay by the due date. Don't pay early. You're going to stretch your float out extra 20 some odd days a year if you think about it, right? Of at 5%, hey, you're getting free bips that way. So there you go.
One slight correction on that. I found that you're better off paying on the day prior to the settlement date, which is
Well, that's a different conversation.
Which is a few days before the due date. And the motivation for that is if things like your credit, if
your statement cycle will show the zero balance, I think is kind of what you're getting at, and that'll help your score, all else equal, generally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
all this stuff is very case by case. I agree with what you're saying for sure. My examples, if your statement is generated with a balance, wait to the due date. If you're paying in full,
no question.
Every statement balance.
No question. Yeah. So basically, if you're using more than, I think it's 30% of your credit limit, the card issuer will consider that when they're sending you even things like offers for new cards. So if they see you overuse more than 30 to 40% of your credit limit, you'll also kind of have less access to some other promotions. So it's one of those things where it's not always spoken about, but all things being equal, you know, it's only if you did.
I think it makes sense that someone who's a user of credit is likely going to get probably more of those offers. I know for me right now, I have a kind of wide portfolio of personal cards that I've had many for over a decade, where most of the offers, the best offer I've got is around 12 months, 3% upfront fee, would pay 0% like balance transfer wise. Some of them coming in at 12 months with a 4% fee. But again, that's stuff that if you use it as intended, you could be able to, whether it's capturing float, in the case of say a risk-free, paying 3% now to take say 10,000 from a card. Assume again to your point about the utilization, that would be a card that has a limit of hopefully in excess of 30. You really don't want to be pushing past 30% utilization on a single line before it'll start to adversely impact your score. And again, it's all so minute. What the model will do to your specific situation will vary, but generally, you don't want those utilizations to get too high on individual lines. Your overall utilization, certainly, you don't want to be in excess of pushing past 20, 30 if you can help it. And as Granger noted, the number that matters, the only number that matters from the credit bureau's perspective is the statement balance, the monthly statement in the case of a credit card that comes out. So to his point of, if you're looking to maximize your score, I did this with my ex-wife when we bought a house a decade ago. Her score was in like the 720 tier. To get us into the most prime of tiers, we literally just paid all her card balances to zero or all but one, and made it appear that her overall utilization was 1% and only one of the cards was used. Again, it's just painting that picture for the lender.
Right.
In that case.
I have a question. So there is new card out in which you can use to pay your lease.
Talking about rent with Built.
Yeah. Do you know about that? And has anyone used it?
I've read about it.
Yeah.
I haven't really actually personally used it or dug too much into it because I just haven't. So I don't know much about it actually. We had Ben back. I'm dropping like 5 minutes here, folks. Though.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Granger. Ben, you're back up on the panel.
Yeah, there's this weird bug with spaces where if you switch between Wi-Fi and a cell network, you can't hear certain speakers anymore.
Yeah, that happens to me. If I try to start the space at home,
Oh, is that
I try
what specifically drives it? Switching between networks that you're aware of?
I mean, that I've noticed that very consistently.
Got it. Okay.
I am like the last person to talk to about personal finance. I love listening about it. My only thing was to Joe from earlier, like the whole like DoorDash versus the other providers. If whoever you're ordering from has like a direct, because a lot of these companies are now moving to direct apps, like McDonald's, Pollo Loco. I mean, there's quite a few now that where you can just order directly from the restaurant. The fees are
even local joints that aren't franchised or chains are leveraging different providers to do just that.
And
at least here in the U.S. and here in Florida for sure, I've definitely seen a big uptick. I think we all have seen it, and we can just broadly say since 2020's events, many more businesses than otherwise would have took up those sorts of offerings. But yeah, sorry to cut you off, Ben. Keep going.
No, that's true. Good context, and basically for those of us who have, again, we're in our 30s, we just remember this being a thing back in the day where you could just call up a place and they'll deliver it to you for a small fee. And we're just going full circle back to that apparently. But yeah, like again, it just always check and see if there's, because the other thing too, like especially with DoorDash, they mark up the actual food on their end. Like you're not overpaying on like the delivery and the service charges and all that kind of stuff, but you're overpaying for the actual food itself. They're marking all that stuff
20
up.
or 30%.
Yeah. So, but honestly, the real ultimate hack is just learn how to fucking cook, my guys. It is
Well, that is the ultimate hack.
it is not that hard, I promise. I mean, I made a what did I make the other night? Or just so far this week, um, we did like a Cafe Rio style steak quesadilla and queso dip. Um, we also did uh, um, a steak Alfredo. Alfredo sauce is like one of the easiest things to make at home. It's pretty much impossible, pretty hard to screw it up. It's like a small handful of ingredients. Pasta is one of the cheapest things on the planet. And you can just, I mean, I make my own garlic bread on some occasions, but most of the time I just get the shit that's pre-made at the store. It's fresh and just throw it in the oven. It's easier. Um,
Ben, I'm on a frugal diet to start the year. I eat oatmeal with banana for every meal of the day. It costs me nothing, and I'm going to be able to invest in the Bitcoin ETPs tomorrow with all of those savings.
Maximum.
But on that note, I'm about to go have dinner because I'm quite hungry.
what are you having, Rod?
So, Christy was making a tenderloin, pork tenderloin we were going to have with some. Costco has this, one of the frozen products. It's a Brussels and bacon, which is pretty good. So
Very nice. I'm about to go to the farmer's market here, see what I can find. Typically end up buying something from a food truck and opting out of acquiring groceries. But with that, I mean, we won't be hosting a space on Friday, so stay tuned on GMEDD here for updates on when our next space will be. Also, follow our Discord server and participate in our discussions there 24/7 at wook.gg. Link for that is in our bio. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning into our space. It's been a lovely time. Hope to see you guys again soon. Cheers.